Hey guys, welcome back to a new video, and today I'm going to be answering the question to if it was a mistake moving to West Virginia. We've officially been living here for over a year, so we have a full year of experience in the state. However, I still have 19 years in Pennsylvania, so it's going to take some time to actually get a full lifetime of experience. But I'm going to tell you guys what it's been like for the past year, and if it was a mistake, if we should have just stayed in Pennsylvania. And you know, honestly, there's a lot to go over. There's a lot of pros and cons to each state. Let's begin with why we moved in the first place. Now, if you're watching this video to just learn about West Virginia, this section is mostly just personal stuff, just personal reasoning to why we moved. Really, honestly, the biggest reason is, well, our apartment building burned down 2 years ago, and we just didn't have many ties left to Pennsylvania. Like, we didn't own anything. It actually would have been a little different if I could drive and we had 2 vehicles, because then I would have to follow my dad, and then I would probably be like, I don't think I want to drive 8 hours following you, because I'm not too used to driving yet. Because honestly, if I was driving, it would be a very recent thing. Like, I wouldn't be very used to driving. It's going to take me some time. But my point is, having 2 vehicles will be a little different because we just don't have much. You know, we don't have much property. We don't have any things tied to Pennsylvania. I don't have many friends left, honestly. In terms of like a real life relationship, some of my friends I still talk to online, but it's only a virtual relationship. What's the point anymore? Our apartment building burned down, we lost everything, we don't own anything here. Why not just pack up and move to a whole new state? The other thing is, West Virginia is like the closest state to Pennsylvania. Like, I'm sorry, but no way were we gonna move to New Jersey, New York, Delaware, or Maryland because of, well, a lot of reasons. West Virginia and like Ohio are probably the most livable states, honestly, that is closest to Pennsylvania. Maybe New Jersey, third most. We just didn't like the way Pennsylvania is, and I'm going to get into why. I do have some family left in Pennsylvania. That is one of the reasons why I feel like, maybe it was a mistake. However, I don't have a lot of family left. Unfortunately, you know, my grandparents have all passed away. My half-brother lives in Maryland, so nothing to do with Pennsylvania. And, well, now, both my parents are in West Virginia now. It also would have been a little different if maybe I had a girlfriend, you know, if I had a relationship with someone and they were in Pennsylvania and they couldn't really move. That would be a little different. However, it would be very unlikely for me to have one. So yeah, that's another reason. It's like, we just don't have any ties to Pennsylvania anymore, especially after our apartment building burned down. It's just like, that was like the final straw. Like we were already so done with just everything. We couldn't afford Pennsylvania. And that's another huge thing I'm going to get into. It's just crazy looking back into the days of Ashwood before our apartment building burned down. If you look back at my videos, we've had a lot of issues with neighbors, but we also had some good neighbors, and the atmosphere of living in an apartment compared to living in a house on a mountain in the middle of nowhere is actually a little better, because, you know, if I was choking on something, I could easily just go out the door and knock on someone's door and be like, I'm choking, or anything. There's a bunch of people in the same building that I can go to in an emergency if my dad's at work, you know. Or let's say someone was breaking into our apartment. You know, that would be very scary. But I could do something like stomping on the ground or banging on the ceiling saying help, and someone might hear me. You know, it's kind of like there was a lot of comfort in that. Even though I hated having neighbors with a passion, because it was just annoying to have so much noise everywhere. So there's a lot of pros and cons to living in an apartment building, but after 10 years of having extreme problems with apartments, like, I don't even want to get into it. I've talked about it ad nauseum with all the problems we've had with neighbors and apartments, but living in an apartment for such a freaking long time, we were done. We wanted to have our own property, and we do now. We have all 4 walls. No one's above us, no one's below us. Someone is next to us, but there's 2 walls and some air between us, so it's not like we're gonna hear them, they're not gonna hear us, so it's a lot different from an apartment. So the next big thing I want to get into is prices and the housing market between West Virginia and Pennsylvania. There's a lot to go over, and honestly, I don't know everything about each state, okay? I'm just a 20-year-old guy with a YouTube channel. I'm not a person just well versed into everything to know everything about each state, but I do know a few things. And so let's look at the housing market in Pennsylvania right now. Okay, so this is the approximate area that we would be living in Pennsylvania, unless we moved extremely far away in Pennsylvania. Now, I do not want to go over the actual price of our house. That would just be a little crazy to just give out how much our house is. But for the sake of an example, let's say our max is $100,000, okay? Is there a bird stuck in the house? I don't know if my camera picked that up. There was just a loud bird. Yikes. Not many around, okay? So let's see. Is there anything that's something we would want? We definitely need 2 bedrooms. Oh boy, that already gets rid of a lot. Let's see. 75,000. Yikes. Reading, PA. It doesn't look like it's in a great neighborhood. When you see these giant rows of townhouses, it's a very crowded area, okay? You're not gonna have a yard, you're not gonna have a backyard, you're not gonna have garage space, which is all the reasons why we prefer our house compared to a house like this. Like, bro, this would be our backyard. Like, we have a bigger backyard than this. Alright, let's see. In our price range is a trailer house. Another, like, townhouse in Reading, which, by the way, we don't want to live in the middle of a freaking big city. Like Charleston, West Virginia is a lot smaller compared to Reading. Like, there's a lot of crime in Reading. We've lived in Reading, and it's just not a very safe area. At least when we lived there. I don't know what it's like now, but what I do know is one night we were sleeping, I heard gunshots outside of our apartment. And I was young. There was a robbery like 2 feet away from us. It was the apartment across from us in the same building. My dad actually ended up accidentally talking to the robbers and they got away. Like, it was just not a safe area. It was terrible, okay? Reading is not a great city. Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles. I don't know why people live in these strongholds of just craziness. And looking at the housing market, right? In Pennsylvania, it looks like the only way you're gonna afford anything is if you live in a major city, and we are not particularly a fan of living in a huge ass city. But let's see what else. 99,000 townhouse. Oh, okay. One of the first. This is like an actual house. For 99,000, it's still in Reading. Looks decent, but it's only 2 bedrooms. It doesn't have a basement. It doesn't have a garage. It's basically another apartment. Let's see, this one looks pretty nice, however, it's a trailer house. It's not really, you don't have a basement. This is probably the best house I've seen. It's affordable, it's not bad, but you know, honestly, having an attached garage is really good. It's really good for numerous things. For one, you can just leave the car in the garage, and then when you need to go out, the car doesn't feel like the freaking sun from sitting in the sun all day long. And there's absolutely no houses in Pennsylvania that has a garage that we can afford. When I do must-have garage, look what's available. Like nothing. Nothing except for Reading and Philadelphia. Like, that's just nuts. But let's get rid of the garage, okay? Let's say that's not a must. There's still a majority of the houses just townhouses in huge cities. Like this one is in Phoenixville. It's only 2 bedrooms. It's a trailer house. It's a mobile home type of house. It doesn't have a basement. It doesn't have much space. Like, our house right now is like 4 of those. Also, I'm looking at a very huge area here. Maybe if we go a little more over here, we might find something else. This one is for auction, so you can't trust 100,000. This one over here is nice. It's 100,000. It's in Tower City. But then again, you know, that being so far away, my dad might not be able to find a job there that pays enough. So you gotta keep that in mind too. Like, hey, what if it's an area that is affordable, but also doesn't have like any businesses around, and my dad can't afford it? So hopefully I've made it understandable that the housing market in PA is bad, especially for low middle class people. If you make $200,000 a year, then sure, you don't have to care about these prices. You can go a lot higher. But guess what? Some people may not be able to afford these fancy giant ass houses that everyone else can afford. Let's look at the housing market in West Virginia, okay? As of right now. So this is like the approximate area we live in, and right off the bat we see a nice house for only $100,000, 3 bedrooms. It's pretty much the same as the ones we saw in PA. Now the thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of businesses in Charleston and Huntington, so there's a lot of opportunity for people to have a job. My dad was easily able to find a job down here. Wow, look at this one, $99,000. That's a nice house. 3 bedrooms. It has a full finished basement. It looks pretty good. Now you're probably thinking, hey Jeff, didn't you just say you don't want to live in the middle of a huge city? Well, Charleston isn't a huge city compared to other cities. As you can see here, this is a whole separate building in the middle of the woods. Look, where is the nearest house around this house? Nothing. See, there's not a townhouse next to it. There's not a row of townhouses. It's pretty secluded. So that's one just right off the bat. What about this one? Oh, okay, Huntington. This is pretty secluded too. Look, there's no houses on top of it, next to it. Like, it has all 4 walls. In other words, you're not sharing a wall with someone. That's a big difference between houses and townhouses. You're not sharing a wall with anyone. So this one is pretty secluded. And right off the bat, do you guys see a difference? The houses in West Virginia are secluded. In Pennsylvania, the only ones you could find are just crowded townhouses. What happens if we own a townhouse, right? And the people next to us are a Spanish couple playing Spanish dubstep music at 3 o'clock in the morning, vibrating the walls. We already had that issue with Ashwood, and at that point we would be owning the property, so we can't just come to the landlord and say, hey, can you tell one of your residents to keep it freaking quiet when we're trying to sleep, because most people sleep at 3 a.m. We can't just up and buy a house and then have problems and then sell it and then move and then buy another house. Like, it would just be best to own a house where you don't have to worry about music and loud people and just nonsense. And right off the bat, there's already a ton of houses where you don't have to worry about that. Like, look at this one. Wow. This one's pretty nice. It has a bigger garage than ours, $99,000, 3 bedrooms, a huge yard. Like, you don't find this stuff in Pennsylvania unless you put a 1 in front of the 99. We can't afford Pennsylvania. Now look at this. West Virginia has some of the lowest property tax rates in the country. Its average effective property tax rate of 0.57% is the 9th lowest state in the U.S. Let's look at PA. Overall, Pennsylvania has property tax rates that are higher than national averages. In fact, the state carries a 1.50% average effective property tax rate in comparison to the 1.07% national average. So, in other words, a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff that I don't completely comprehend, but what I do comprehend is the fact that property taxes in West Virginia is a lot better than PA. In other words, we can't afford Pennsylvania. We can afford West Virginia. I'm not trying to sound rude, but I'm just trying to get my point across that West Virginia is a lot better than PA. Now I want to get into another thing. It's kind of off topic, but also not. My dad just had to get his car inspected, like everyone else in this country. He said that the inspection cost $11, and in PA it would cost around $50. I don't know much about car inspection. I don't know in total what it would be in Pennsylvania versus West Virginia. But what I do know is West Virginia does not have an emissions test. Yell at me all you want, but I don't give a crap about the stupid ESG scores. Now, I don't want to get very political, okay? That's not what this channel is about. I don't want to talk about politics in my videos. But it's nice that this state does not care about emissions. And one of the most important things about the emissions test in West Virginia not existing is the fact that the catalytic converter in my dad's car stopped working. And what my dad says, the only purpose of it is to just make the car cleaner. If we were still in PA, they would require an emissions test which would mean that he would have to get the catalytic converter replaced, which would cost him $1,000, I think, around there. It would cost a lot, probably. Down here, they don't care about emissions, okay? Now, if you want to complain about the environment and all your stuff and all that craziness, fine, go ahead. But I'm talking about why we moved to West Virginia in the first place. And honestly, in my opinion, it's pretty good that they don't have an emissions test. It helps us, okay? We're not rich. And so my dad had one of the cheapest inspections in his lifetime just for living in West Virginia. So if you're just against that, if you're just for ESG scores, then I guess don't move here. We are not a fan of it. But anyways, let's talk about the cons of West Virginia. There's always pros and cons of each state. West Virginia is not perfect. Pennsylvania is not perfect. No state in this country is perfect. But you know, that's the point of 50 sovereign states. You know, if you don't like one state, then you can move to the other. But what I was alluding to is one of the cons of West Virginia is it doesn't really matter when we vote. 2020 was the first year I could actually vote in an election. And well, now that we live in West Virginia, looking at the politics of this state, the electoral votes of this state, it doesn't really matter if we vote or not. Now, it's very hard for me to talk about this stuff because I don't want politics on my channel. I know you guys don't want to see politics. The whole point of my channel is to be an escape, to just entertain you guys. But in this video, I'm strictly telling you guys why or why not it was a mistake to move to West Virginia. I'm just gonna say, you know, one of the cons of West Virginia is just, you know, it doesn't really matter if you vote or not. Let's say I was a Democrat and I want to vote for Biden in 2024. It doesn't matter. 70% of the state voted Republican in 2020, so I'm not going to change the state. However, let's say I'm a Republican and I want a Republican to win 2024. Well, my vote isn't really going to contribute much because I could not vote at all and the state would still go red. Even though it's kind of ridiculous that like only 5 states determine presidential elections, one of the perks of Pennsylvania is your vote really matters, okay? Your vote can change your vote can change stuff. Your vote can change the country. And in West Virginia, it's like it doesn't really matter. West Virginia is not going to go blue anytime soon in a presidential election, unless we went to PA and, you know, knocked on people's doors and tried to get people to vote there. But, you know, we can't vote in PA because we don't live there. So yeah, that's one of the things I don't like about West Virginia, is just because of the fact that we are not going to contribute much to the country living here. The other thing is, well, we're 8 hours away from everyone we know. And that's a very sad thing to note. Now, ultimately, I will say whether or not it was a mistake at the end of this video, but one of the things that makes me closest to saying it's a mistake is definitely the fact that we're 8 hours away from everything I know, everyone I know. We're also 8.5 hours away from one of our favorite places to go on vacation, which is Wildwood, New Jersey. It's just a fun place to go for vacation. It was just a tradition that me and my dad did. 2015 we went to Wildwood. 2016 we couldn't afford to go on vacation at all. 2017 we went to Wildwood. 2018 we went to Wildwood. 2019 we went to Wildwood. 2020 we went to Wildwood. 2020 we went to Wildwood. But sadly my uncle passed away and we had to go back home. But we still went. And 2022, nope. We're going to Myrtle Beach, which at the time of this video is being uploaded, we're already on vacation. So it's just one of those sad things to know that we're super far away from Wildwood right now. Living in Phoenixville, we were only 2 hours and 20 minutes away from Wildwood. That's like nothing compared to the 8-hour drive between Ashwood Apartments and here. Like, it's an 8-hour drive. And it was another thing I forgot to mention is the fact that, you know, I'm out of school now. 2020 is when I graduated. Well, somewhat graduated because of, you know, what happened. So I don't have to worry about school. You know, all my friends are busy and are in college now. That's another pro of moving to West Virginia, because, you know, I'm not in school anymore. I don't have many friends, and, you know, it's just, however, it's a little daunting to know that everyone I knew is 8 hours away. Another thing is, we were paying $1,200 a month for our rent, and in Ashwood we were paying $650. Okay, that's a big step up. And it's only because we had to, because, well, our apartment burned down. And you know, it would be very stupid of us to get a house only on the basis of me also having a job, because if we got a house that relied on both me and my dad having a job, that would mean that I can't move out, because then my dad wouldn't be able to afford the house. Do you get it? Do you get my point? And so that's one of the reasons why I kept getting annoyed that a lot of you guys tell me in the comments, just get a job, just get a part-time job. It's not that simple for me, especially because I care a lot about YouTube. I care about it being my actual job. But if you want to say it's because of me not having a job is the reason we couldn't afford a house in PA, well, it's stupid. It's stupid for us to rely on also me having a job to afford a house in Pennsylvania, because what if on the very, very, very off chance that I had a girlfriend and, you know, we wanted to live together on our own, then I would have to move out. And then my dad would have to pay for a huge house all by himself. My dad can afford this house by himself. That's great. You know, maybe if my YouTube channel picks up, I can help with the bills. Also, guys, keep in mind that another thing about West Virginia we like is just everything in general is affordable, not just houses. But gas is a lot more cheaper down here compared to Pennsylvania. Even though gas prices are astronomically skyrocketing, it's still cheaper here than PA. Food in general down here is a lot more cheaper. For any of you that are living in Pennsylvania right now, go to any restaurant in West Virginia, especially Charleston, and tell me the difference you see in the bill. Though the one thing is if I advocate for more people to move to West Virginia, then that will get rid of the biggest reasons why West Virginia is affordable, which is because, well, there's not a lot of people here. But West Virginia isn't the least populated state. There's Wyoming, there's Rhode Island, I think. I think Vermont is almost like Wyoming, like no one lives there. It's just such a small state that just barely anyone lives there. But the biggest thing is about West Virginia is the property tax, like I just showed you. It has one of the lowest property taxes, and if you're for taxes, then fine. Stay in PA. Stay in a very rich state. If you're a fan of ESG scores, if you're a fan of taxes, if you're a fan of your wallet being robbed, then fine. Stay in your state. And so the final answer to if it was a mistake to move into West Virginia is, well, can I really say yes? Because since we've only lived here for a year, wouldn't it kind of doom our future by saying, oh yeah, it was just a mistake. It was a huge mistake moving here. This sucks. It's not a mistake. It was not a mistake moving here. Parts of it is, you know, parts of me definitely wishes that we were closer to the people I know. However, my mom moved down here with us. My half-brother is actually considering moving to West Virginia with his dad. Either way. Like, even if we weren't in West Virginia, they would probably move here anyways. And yes, I do have some family left in Pennsylvania. But you know, sometimes you just have to move. Sometimes you just have to. But keep in mind, guys, a lot of things led to us moving to West Virginia. Like, there's probably a lot of different things that could have took place that made us say, you know what, let's just stay in PA. Let's just rent a house, you know. Let's just rent a house, which is what we thought about first. You know, when we were living in Ashwood Apartments, for me, I thought we were never going to move out. I thought we were never going to have a house. We were never going to get away from this seemingly black hole of an apartment complex. But looking back, I really miss living in Ashwood. Obviously, Ashwood Apartments, not completely bad. There was a lot of issues, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of problems, but it definitely did not deserve to burn all the way to the ground. So yeah, that's a lot of talking. Was it a mistake? No. West Virginia is a lot better. We were actually able to afford a house. Buy a house, even. And the bottom line is, there's no way we could afford a house exactly like this one in Pennsylvania. There's no way. We wouldn't be able to afford it. But because we can afford it here in West Virginia, doesn't it sound better to live in West Virginia then? Anyways, guys, I hope this was informative. I hope this was enjoyable. Make sure to leave a like if you did like this video. Subscribe if you're brand new to this channel, because I'm getting a haircut when I hit 10,000 subscribers. So make sure to share my channel with all your friends, with all your family, with all your hobos on the street. As you can see, mark my words, I will keep growing this thing until I actually hit 10,000. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.